changed often. I mean, now it's Popeyes, but there used to be
Mary Bruce Dance Studio.
Yeah.
I knew Miss Bruce.
I performed
I
with
mean,
Bruce.
oh, you did?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, when they had the dance school, you know, and they had summer programs, they used to invite the kids to come up to the dance and things like that. I used to go up there, but I didn't go up there to dance. I used to go there to look at the girls. But there was also another woman that had, I can't think of her name. She had a school also, like an art school on 25th Street, further down, between 7th and Lenox Avenue. And I remember I was a bit of, I wanted to be an artist when I was a kid, a cartoonist really. And they used to have art classes there on Saturdays and during the school, you know, during the summer or the recess. And that was very impressionable because it offered a lot. And then they used to give us a little like lunch, a little sandwich or something for lunch, you know. But we didn't go there for the lunch. We went there for all the, you know, for the artwork, and she used to give us. I loved it because we had all these great. We had crayons and things that you could just draw, and then she would keep some of the stuff, and some of the stuff we used to take home.
What about Minnesink Townhouse?
Minnesink, I had friends that went to Minnesink.
To the camp or just?
It was the camp in the beginning. The townhouse came later. But when I was a kid, it was Minnesink was the camp. I think it was a Protestant sponsored organization. And the Minnesink Townhouse that was built later. But I didn't go to camp. My folks couldn't afford to send me to camp. But I mean, so in those days, camp was, you know, for that 2 weeks. It was you were kind of, if you wanted to go to camp for 2 weeks, you were kind of high class.
Yeah, right.
You know?
You're probably too young, but do you remember Sugar Ray Robinson when he had a place?
Oh yes.
Can you talk about that? Or what are the places where there was jazz or where there was music that you remember as being the highlights of the neighborhood?
The old Showmans, they were originally next to the Apollo. Yeah, that was the old Showmans that they opened in 1942. And at that time, 1942, I was just a kid then, but 1942, I mean, they didn't, blacks couldn't go into Showmans. They had entertainers, you know, but back in those days, it wasn't too many places that I think my parents didn't worry too much about entertainment because the big deal at that time was like people trying to keep jobs, get jobs. You know, that was the big thing on television.
And where did you go to school, and what did you end up doing?
Well, I went to PS 43, which is right on the corner on 29th Street. I went there for the 3rd grade, and I graduated from junior high school, and I went to high school. And I went to Brooklyn College. And then I went into I was going to Brooklyn College in 50. And when the Korean War broke out, I was called down for the draft. And I was told that, I'll never forget, I went down to 39 Whitehall, and the sergeant told me, he said, what school you go to? I said, I go to Brooklyn College. He said, there's no college deferment for you because we didn't have an ROTC. There was no ROTC at Brooklyn College. They were very even then, they were very anti-war. Like City College had the Pershing Rifles, Queens College had the ROTC. Brooklyn College, they wouldn't even permit military people to go on the base to even go onto the campus to even recruit. So I had 6 months to make up my mind what branch of the service I was going to go in because the sergeant told me, he said, son, in 6 months you're coming for you and you're going to Korea. He said, I can promise you that. So I joined the Air Force in 52. I ended up going to Korea anyway, but it was a little different in the Air Force than it was in the Army.
Probably the wisest decision you made.
It was one of the smartest decisions I ever made. But the military was good to me. I learned a lot in the military. I was very close to becoming a lifer. I was very, very close to staying in, but I didn't. But I don't regret it. And after that, I finished my schooling and I became a mechanical engineer. So now I'm sort of semi-retired. So I still keep my hand in business just a little bit, just enough to keep me out of trouble. But the area here, and I mean, to see the area come back, I'm seeing how it was when I was a kid, and it was great. I wish they'd bring Tom Fitz back.
Well, Small's Paradise.
And Smalls, yeah, Smalls is another great place.
Right.
Smalls, they were, I'll tell you, there was a Palm on 125th Street down by 7th Avenue on the side of the street.
Yes.
And the Palm Cafe, in fact, Sugar Ray Robinson's sister, she was a DJ with Jack Walker. He called himself the Pear-Shaped Talker. They had a radio show. He used to come on I think he used to come on WWRL in the old days. And they used to do a show there at the Palm at night. And they had a little booth, and they would do the DJ, and then they'd have live entertainment. And the Palm was considered, well, they had a long bar. I mean, they called it the longest bar in the world. I mean, they had about, I think they had about 6 or 7 bartenders. I mean, the bar went from, the place was very deep. So it went like from 125th Street almost all the way back to 126th Street, a very long bar. And that was a guy by the name of Frank Bastone. He was the manager who managed it. And now that place opened, it opened to everybody. So it wasn't any problem. But then you had the Top Club that was on St. Nicholas Avenue on 25th Street. And you had the Baby Grand. And then there was Frank's Chop House.
Right.
Famous Frank's. So there was some great places. I remember Frank's when they really opened the doors for blacks. It was really in the, I would say probably in the late 50s, 58, 59, when blacks started going to Frank's restaurant.
You get the sense that more businesses in Harlem are owned by blacks now than ever before?
No, it's
still
about the
not
same.
enough?
No, it's about the same ratio because most of the flagship stores. That's what I'm saying. The flagship stores were always chain stores, and they were never really mom and pop stores. That was the only stores that really that blacks had, and they were like candy stores and maybe little delis. But this street was always the flagship stores.
Well, listen, thanks so much for taking